In this lesson, I'm going to be showing you guys how to set up an FBA shipment inside of Seller Central. Now, even if you are using a freight forwarder or a 3PL or anything else really, you still have to set up the shipments inside of Seller Central, assuming you're using the FBA program, so that Amazon knows what you're sending into them and what they can expect from you. After logging in to Seller Central, go to Manage FBA Inventory. Over on the right-hand side, click the drop down for whatever product you want to send in, or whatever product you have inventory of that you want to send into Amazon, and do Send or Replenish Inventory. After that, you'll be entered into the Seller Central workflow for sending or replenishing your inventory. To start, select the address you would like to ship from or input it by clicking Ship from Another Address. Then you need to select individual products or case-packed products. In our example, we'll be using case-packed products, but let me explain the difference. Individual products is if there's one box that's going to have different SKUs or different products inside of it. Whereas case-packed means you have one master carton with a whole bunch of the same product inside of that master carton. So in our example, our jungle sticks come 10 to a case, so we're going to be choosing case-packed products. If there are more SKUs that you would like to add to this shipment, for example, with our hooded baby towels, we have a few different colors. The easiest way to do it is then to just click the Add Products button over here and select the different SKUs that you would like to add to this particular shipment. After doing so, we need to tell Amazon how many units come in each case and how many cases we're sending in. For our jungle sticks, there's 10 units per case. And for this pretend example, let's say we're sending in 8 cases. Continue on to the next screen. On this page, we're going to be selecting who does the prep, either us or our 3PL or Amazon. So it's essentially either Amazon's doing it or someone else. That's all they care about. When I say prep, the things that I'm talking about are things like applying the FNSKU label or wrapping something fragile in bubble wrap. Or it could be things like putting a plush item inside of a poly bag, or there's a few other types of prep that Amazon's able to do. However, I prefer to do all of the prep myself, or more specifically, have my factory do it because it's cheaper to have them do it than to pay Amazon. So I'm gonna select Merchant here and continue on to the next screen. This screen's asking who's going to apply the FNSKU labels to the packaging. Now for our jungle sticks, we're not actually using the FNSKU labels. As we recommended for you guys, we just print the FNSKU barcode directly on our packaging. So instead of having to put the FNSKU label on here, it's already printed onto the packaging. So this isn't actually applicable in our situation. Because of this, I'm just gonna select Merchant because like I said earlier, Amazon just cares about whether or not they need to apply the labels or if it's being handled. In this case, it's handled. On this screen, it's showing us what distribution centers we'll need to send our goods into and how many cases or how many units are being sent to each distribution center. Now, in this example, it's only having me send my goods to one distribution center, the one in Southern California. However, it's more common, especially for standard size, not oversized products, to have to be shipped to 3 different distribution centers. So don't be surprised when you go to do this if it's having you send your goods to 3 different distribution centers. Amazon likes to do that to get the product closer to the customer. Unfortunately for us, that usually means more money in shipping costs since we can't ship all these together. However, it is something that we have to deal with. After approving the distribution centers, you then go in and work on the shipment. To do so, you just click on the yellow button right here. And if you have 2 or 3 different shipments, each of them are gonna have their own work on shipment button. We spoke earlier about the 2 different shipping methods to send your goods into Amazon, SPD or LTL. As a general rule of thumb, if that particular shipment is under 150 pounds, I usually do SPD. If it's over 150 pounds, I typically do LTL. Remember, SPD is just using a courier like UPS, whereas LTL means I'm putting all my cartons onto a pallet, I'm putting this pallet onto a truck, and the truck's taking it into Amazon. In this particular example, our 8 cases of jungle sticks weigh around $100, so I'm gonna be using SPD. Now, after clicking SPD, I have the option to either use UPS or choose a different carrier. Ultimately, all I really care about is the minimal amount of shipping costs here, so I'm gonna stick with the top one, which is UPS. Now, if you click on LTL because your shipment's a little bit bigger, you essentially have the same options. You can either choose Amazon's partnered carrier, which is gonna be the cheapest, or alternatively, you can choose one of the other carriers that they have here. So I'm gonna be shipping SPD and I'm gonna stick with UPS. When using SPD, this form's pretty simple. All I have to do is tell Amazon how many units are in each box and essentially how many boxes I'm sending in. So as you remember from earlier, we have 10 jungle sticks per carton. We have 8 cartons total. And then I enter the weight and the dimensions of my particular carton. After confirming the weight and dimensions of my shipment, Amazon will then give me the shipment cost. Now, like I said before, Amazon has a partnership with UPS and their costs are way less than what it will cost you if you open up an account with UPS. So I would encourage you to use Amazon's partnership with UPS. After accepting the charges, you'll be able to print your box labels. After clicking on the button, you'll get one combination of a shipment ID label and a UPS label per box that you're sending in to Amazon. It will look very similar to something like this. So on the left half here, this is the UPS label. This is what UPS is gonna be looking for when they pick up my package and send it through their system. On the right-hand side, this gives Amazon the barcode that they need to enter into their system who is sending in these goods, where it's coming from, and any other information that they include inside of here. When you're using SPD, keep in mind that each box you send in has its own unique combination of the UPS label and this shipment ID, so don't copy it. Make sure that you use one label here for each box that you're sending into Amazon. After printing those off, you'll complete the shipment, and that is all there is to it. If you were given multiple distribution centers to send your goods into, the next thing you'll do is click on Work on Another Shipment and go ahead and select the second shipment from the list. Let me now walk you through an example of what it's like to send in an LTL shipment using Amazon's partnered carrier. For this one, I'll select LTL. I'm gonna keep Amazon's partnered carrier. You'll then enter the number of units per box and how many boxes you're sending in. You'll confirm it. You'll then generate the box labels. This is what a box label looks like. And each box on the pallet needs to have its own box label. So however many boxes you told Amazon were gonna be sent in, they'll give you that many labels. You cut them out and you'll tape each of them onto the boxes that are on the pallet. After doing so, you'll need to let Amazon know how many pallets you're sending in, the dimensions of the pallet, as well as the weight of the pallet. This can get a little bit tricky because depending on how you stack the cartons on the pallet changes the height of the pallet. Now, I will say this isn't an exact science, and I don't think Amazon's very strict around this because I usually use my best guess and I've never had any problems with it before. For example, I know that our Jungle Sticks cartons are 10 inches by 10 inches and about 36 inches long. So I can stack 4 cartons on each layer. And I know there's a maximum weight of 1,500 pounds and a maximum height of 72 inches. So essentially then what I have to figure out is, am I gonna be limited by the height that they give us or by the weight that's allowed per pallet? For the Jungle Sticks in particular, they're fairly heavy, so I'm actually limited by the 1,500 pound cap that I can fit on each pallet. After entering the dimensions and weight of your pallets, the next step will be to choose a date that you would like your goods picked up from. This is either from your freight forwarder, your 3PL, or maybe your house. You're going to add the contact information for the person who's in charge of meeting the truck driver. And then you have to choose your freight class. I always just leave this at estimate my freight class because I found that doesn't make much of a difference on your overall price. After entering the information, you can calculate the shipping costs. And Amazon will show me what I'm going to be charged by using this LTL shipment that I'm booking through Amazon. In this particular example, it's $290. If I'm okay with these, I can accept the terms and accept the charges. And then it's going to give you the pallet labels. Now, the pallet labels are different than the labels that go on each individual carton. How the pallet labels work is there's 4 of them. They look like this, and one label gets attached to the side, towards the top, all around the pallet. So if you can imagine a big wooden pallet, it has a whole bunch of boxes stacked on it. These are each of my cartons on the pallet. It gets wrapped in this plastic wrap. And then on the outside of the plastic wrap, on all 4 sides, is going to be this label. Again, your freight forwarder or your 3PL is probably familiar with doing this process and working with Amazon, so they'll know what to do, but it's also important for you guys just to understand this, especially when you're speaking with your freight forwarder. I would then print out these labels. I would give them to my freight forwarder, or if this is at my house and I'm creating it there, I would tape them to the outside of my pallet. And that's all there is to it. The last thing to do is just to complete the shipment. And the trucking company will reach out to the contact person to schedule the pickup, and likely someone will have to be there when the truck arrives to load the goods. After you've completed the shipment, or any time if you get kicked out of there, you can always go under the inventory tab and click on Manage FBA Shipments, and all of the shipments that you have created through Seller Central will be showing up here. So this is the latest one that we created here at the top. It shows me how many units I'm shipping into Amazon, and it will also give me the status. The status will either say working if it's still up to you, or the goods haven't been picked up yet. In transit if the goods have been picked up but haven't arrived at Amazon yet. It will tell me at the fulfillment center if they have arrived at Amazon and they're starting to unpack them, or haven't started to unpack them yet, but they've arrived there. And then closed once they've received all the units in the shipment. Feel free to go in here at any time and you can see the updated status for your particular shipments. And that's all there is to it. As you can see, it's a pretty painless process, and you can actually save quite a bit of money by using Amazon's partner carriers, which I really like. In the next lesson, we'll recap all that we've gone over in the shipping module.